You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Couple things that we started with, and that is the New York Yankees. You know what the frustrating thing as a Yankees fan, it must be, that you get such good pitching, and you can't score runs.
Yeah, that was a tough one last night. I mean, look, you're facing David Price. You did beat Max Scherzer. You're happy with 1-1, so far. I mean, Verlander hasn't been his normal self this season. So you've kind of gone through the toughest guys so far, and you got a split. So maybe you can, at the very least, split these next two. But that was a game that was right there for them, and you're right. They couldn't get that timely hit when they needed it. But overall, look, the Yankees have fared well these first two games, I'd have to say.
I agree with you, but it's the same. I mean, do you know what? Let me ask you this. How many games in a row the Yankees have played within a 2-run margin?
16.
Oh, you do know that. Yeah, look at you. You've done your homework.
Isn't it like the most since 1976 or something, right?
Every game. I mean, so there's never, even to lose a game 9-1, like every night you see either Betances or Kelly or Robertson. I mean, there's not a night that goes by when the Yankees don't use their bullpen. You would, I think, start to get concerned that the bullpen just won't continue, and maybe I'm wrong, but how many times can you go to the well before you say, we've overworked some of these guys?
I think you're right. I think that takes a toll on you, not just physically, but I think mentally. I think whether it's, from the pitchers to the hitters, when every single night you are in a war, excuse it if that's unacceptable usage of the word, but every night you're in a battle. It's as simple as that, and you don't get any mental break, and so that can be tough on a team. They've done well, so far they've done well in those situations, but I would be a little concerned as well.
Yeah, and then last, so I guess you're at the point, right, if you're a Yankees fan where you're rooting for Baltimore to beat Toronto, because you look at the second wild card as much more realistic than this division right now, right?
No question. I don't think the Orioles are going to fold this much. I think they may struggle a little bit at some point, but I don't see the Yankees catching them. And yeah, I'm definitely I'm looking at it's all about the wild card at this point. It's all about the wild card, and you're right. I want Baltimore to beat Toronto.
So it's 6 now. Are you a Yankees fan today, or you're not a Yankees fan today?
I'm a Yankees fan right now. I'm feeling, I go with my gut, and right now my gut is with the Yankees right now. Like I said, look, I know they're never a historic underdog. I get that. I understand that. And, some people got on me on Twitter because I said the Yankees were the underdog. Right now, they're the underdog because of the injuries this season. But people said, why don't you pull for Kansas City or something if you like the underdog? You know what I like better than the underdog? I like a great story. And the Yankees right now are a great
Are they really?
Story.
You look at
you
the
don't
Yankees
think they're a great story?
What's a great story?
The injuries, to overcome the way they have with these injuries, to have a Brandon McCarthy, a Martin Prado come in and play very good baseball, much better than they were playing in their other places. Chase Headley, all these guys, to do it with the injuries and to do it in a way that's different than you had been doing it the past several years, where you were star-laden. They're not star-laden right now. Their stars are injured for the most part, and they're getting it done. That's what I like, and that's what I think is a great story right now.
Okay, well, we disagree with that.
I can tell by the way you succumbed with that. Okay, you agree.
I don't agree. I think, look, Kansas City to me is a great, a team that never makes it to the postseason. That's a great story. The Yankees, you are never going to convince me that the Yankees are an underdog. Never. I don't care.
Just for right now, not even this season.
No, I
just
don't care.
Just this month with all the injuries.
Do I think Girardi has done a tremendous job and Cashman has put together the best possible club? Yes. Do I think that they're doing a nice job with the pieces? Why have they done that? What?
Why is Girardi doing such a great job? How do you
because they're all banged up.
That? Okay, then that right there, the injuries are a factor. The fact that they're so banged up makes them an underdog right now. That's all I'm saying. In this present moment,
I don't know, but it's not like they went out and added Prado is salary, and McCarthy was a very wise trade. But Headley is salary. I mean, they went out and they added Stephen Drew is salary. They went out and they added salary. You didn't see the Royals go out and bring in high-priced guys who are trying to do it for the rest of this year. Well, I understand what you're saying. And you're right on one avenue, that the Yankees, it's different, and they're cobbling together, and they're looking for production from guys that you wouldn't ordinarily expect. But to sit here and call the Yankees, and maybe it's just a battle of semantics at this point between you and I with the word underdog. I just will never look at the Yankees as an underdog. If they make it to the postseason this year, it would be impressive that they could get there with so many injuries. How's that?
I'll take that. I'll take that from a diehard Mets fan who hates to give the Yankees any credit.
I hate the Yankees.
I'll take that.
Yeah,
I know.
But you know what the nice thing about me is, there's no question where I stand. Right? Like what football team? Everyone knows I'm a Giants fan. What hockey? I'm a Rangers fan. I don't root for the Islanders. I don't root for the Yankees. I don't root for the Nets. I know. I root for my teams, and that's it.
What's wrong with evolving? What's wrong being open to new things, new possibilities? That's the spice of life.
Oh, stop!
That's the spice of life. So if your team
pasta,
is back,
that's evolving. Changing teams every 10 minutes, that's embarrassing.
Not every 10 minutes. Come on. All I'm saying is I'm not hooked into one team so much that I'm going to die if they struggle, if they lose. That's all I'm saying.
So you're not a fan. You're not a fan.
We went over this yesterday. I'm a huge fan. I'm a fan of the game. I'm a fan of excellence. I'm a fan of great baseball, great pitching, great defensive plays, web gems. I'm a fan of slam dunks and well-executed basketball and great runs on the gridiron and hard hits. That's what I'm a fan of.
I agree. So you would rather see a beautiful game, not caring about the result, than see like a specific team win.
I care about the result. I just may not care quite as much as you do. That's all.
Well, I think that's
But
obvious.
I care about the result.
Okay. All right. Let's break into another topic, which I think is very, very interesting. And in a couple moments, I want to get to some calls on this. So Biogenesis breaks yesterday. Anthony Bosch is arrested. A-Rod's cousin is arrested. And 8 other particulars are arrested, who are all, by the way, out of jail. They all posted bail, and they're all out. Apparently, and this is what Pedro Gomez and TJ Quinn and all the guys were reporting yesterday, is that there are 85 names, up to 85 names, Chris, on that list. Do you want to know?
Well, and I heard you talking earlier about you don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
Look, I'm not saying I'm sitting here dying for guys to have their names dragged through the mud and have even, some of our heroes or other people's heroes really taken down. I'm not excited about that, but I just believe in the name of fairness, right? In the name of fairness, we must know. If Alex Rodriguez, and I'm not trying to defend him in any way, shape, or form.
But we don't even know now. Because remember the Mitchell report that came out, some of the names were leaked, and we don't even know all the names that were on that report from years ago.
True. But if we can know, we have to know. I mean, if you're going to take down one steroid or PED user, then you got to try to take down all of them. I mean, you have guys who have never even been proven. I mean, Barry Bonds never been proven to be, and his legacy is tarnished. We have to know who's on that list, just in the name of fairness for the Ryan Brauns and the Alex Rodriguez's and the Roger Clemens and all these other guys. We must know. I just think it is the name of fairness. We have to know. You got to agree with that.
I agree with that in one way, but here's what upsets me and concerns me. If these names are made public, don't they have to be suspended?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're talking 80. So I don't know.
You're right. It hurts.
85. We're not talking about 8. We're 85. You have, 30 teams? You're talking about 3 players on every team will be suspended?
But you'd rather not know?
I'd rather not know. Yeah.
So, no, it just can't happen. So then let's let all the other guys that have used and been suspended come back prematurely.
You know what I think would be an interesting question? If you got Bud Selig in a room and you said, give me an honest answer, do you wish that you never started this in the first place? What do you think his answer would be?
Yes.
I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right. I think that, you know what I think it's happened is they started it and they wanted to try and clean it up and stop it and punish some guys. And I think you look at it now and it's kind of spun out of control, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think they knew how bad it was. And I think they look, and this would be a part of my answer if I'm Bud Selig. How much does he know? Now, and I would believe that they have, investigators and just guys connected to ML or to NFL and connected to the NBA that know and think, it's not, maybe not as prevalent in these other sports, although NFL is probably at least that prevalent.
But the NFL doesn't want to know.
Well, that's my point. Like, I think, if Selig feels like the other sports, especially the NFL, are just as bad as far as steroid and PED use, and he sees how they haven't gone after it like the MLB has, then I think that's when he would say, you know what, we should have taken that approach.
That's exactly what they should have done.
Yeah.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
This story, Chris, kind of goes around in circles where it gets a lot of discussion and then none, and then a lot and then none. It seems like this is one of the times where it gets a lot, and that's the Redskins, and that's their nickname. Are you at the point where it's time in your mind to make this change?
Yeah, I am, and I've been here a long time. I feel this way. It's not for me as an African American or for Dan Snyder as a white man to tell Native Americans what's offensive or should be offensive to them. And I know you can find some Native Americans who don't think it's offensive, just like you can find some black people who don't think the N-word or use the N-word left and right. I'm one that doesn't use it. I think it's offensive, but we all believe that word should not be used and is a racial slur. And I think it's the same thing for Native Americans. Enough groups and organizations representing Native Americans have come out and said this word is a racial slur. I've read from Native Americans who've written that a redskin is the scalped head of a Native American that is sold on the market for cash, or that, was back in historical times. So I think it's clearly offensive. It's the equivalent of the N-word for Native Americans. And I think it should be, I think it should be changed. I think it's as simple as that. Look, there are thousands of schools, high schools throughout the country and colleges that have changed nicknames that were offensive to Native Americans.
You look at Marquette, right? Marquette used to be the Warriors. Now they're the Golden Eagles. You look at Hawaii. I forget what they used to be. And now they're like the Rainbows.
The St. John's.
Right.
You know?
They were the Red Men. Now they're the Red Storm.
Yep. I mean, it's high time. And look, I just think, and I don't dislike Daniel Snyder, but I think it's just arrogance. I think it's the utmost in arrogance. And this is what it boils down to me. In America, you have to have enough people and enough significance and enough power within American society and culture to make these type of changes. African Americans have been able to make the advancements we've made in society because we did have the numbers and we did have the power, and we've been wildly influential in American culture, particularly in sports and in entertainment and other ways, of course, politics and just other forms of, fields of endeavor. But sports and entertainment have really endeared African Americans to the country as a whole over the past several decades because of the dominance. Native Americans have not had that luxury. They don't have the numbers and they don't have the influence and the power within society and culture. That's why they're being brushed aside by the Dan Snyders and the Roger Goodells. And I think that's a shame, because if it's racism in regards to blacks, then it's the same type of racism in regards to Native Americans or any other ethnicity. and it shouldn't be tolerated.
Almost every player, we're going to hear from Dan Snyder in just a moment, almost every player that I have asked to off the record about this have said it's time to change the name. I hosted last night with Stig, with Mark Schlereth, and I said, what do you think? And he said, it's time to change the name. It's an offensive name. But now Vinny Cerrato, who's the former GM and VP of football operations, is going to join us in about 10 minutes here. And he has a really interesting story of why Daniel Snyder is so adamant about keeping the name. But I want to play for you real quickly, and then we can react off it. And I think it's a little... Well, let me play it for you, and then we can discuss what he says. But I did have an issue with something that Daniel Snyder did during this interview yesterday on Outside the Lines with John Barr discussing the Redskins name.
What is a Redskin?
A Redskin is a football player. A Redskin is our fans. The Washington Redskin fan base, it represents honor, represents respect, represents pride, hopefully winning, and it's a positive. Taken out of context, you can take things out of context all over the place. But in this particular case, it is what it is. It's very obvious.
For people who don't know you and don't understand where you're coming from on this issue, what can you share with them that will help them understand what really motivates you as far as your position on the issue of the team name?
It's what the name actually means. I would like people to know the history of whether it's Lone Star Dietz, whether it's Walter Blackie Wetzel in Montana. It's just historical truths. And I'd like them to understand, as I think most do, that the name really means honor, respect. We sing Hail to the Redskins. We don't say hurt anybody. We sing Hail to the Redskins, Braves on the warpath, fight for old D.C. We only sing it when we score touchdowns. That's the problem, because last season we didn't sing it quite enough as we would have liked to.
Now, am I wrong? It seems like it's a very sensitive issue, Chris, and people are really up in arms over it's time to change it, it's not time, and he knows this. And he's joking about we didn't sing it enough times last year because we didn't score enough touchdowns. Am I on an island here where I think that's a little inappropriate?
No, I agree with you. I think that was inappropriate, and I think some of the other things he said, I mean, when he was asked what's a Redskin, look, I understand you want to put it in the football context, but this is beyond the football context. You talked about historical truths. Well, there's a lot of other historical truths out there associated with that word that make it negative, far more negative than the positives he could try to bring up with the football team. And I think Native Americans, look at the history. They've been to a large extent annihilated. They've been forced to live on reservations, and they're still suffering to this day because of the mistreatment historically that they've suffered. I think they feel like, and I'm not trying to speak for them, but they're tired of being mascots. They've been mistreated, okay? And yet you want to use them as a mascot? I think that's part of it too. Just treat them like human beings, give them the help that they deserve in society right now. And I know Daniel Snyder's talked about wanting to do that himself.
When you talk about mascots, you know what? There are certain things that are disingenuous and are not classy and are really by nature inappropriate. And then there's some that are okay. And I think in my mind, look, and you know this about me. We've hosted 3 days. I hate change. I do not like change. But it feels like this is time. And you look at all the other, with Marquette and Hawaii and St. John's. And I got a good tweet from Aris, I can't even pronounce the last name, who says, Miami University changed their nickname from the Redskins to the Red Hawks. You see almost every other team, school, whatever, with this kind of, negative connotation nickname, change it. Why won't he do it?
No, you're right. And look, if only half of the Native Americans are offended, I don't know what the percentage is, but let's say just half of them are. You're willing to offend that population of people for a freaking nickname on a sports team? I mean, come on. It's not that big of a deal that you have to fight tooth and nail to keep the Redskins name. It's just not.
And what's the number one thing? What's the number in any sport? What's the number one thing? What does it all boil down to?
Money.
Okay. So if you change the Redskins nickname, do you know now what you have? A brand new clean slate nickname where you can market and sell, and nobody in the world has a jersey saying the Washington whatever they're going to be.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've seen it with players, LeBron James changing teams, changing numbers. You know, it will make a huge difference with the bottom line. But look, and this is the fact too. If we as, you know, consumers are really upset about this, if the people in D.C. are really upset about this, then just stop buying the Redskins paraphernalia.
But it's not going to happen.
Stop buying the apparel. And that's where I think we can jump on Daniel Snyder, and he deserves to be jumped on in this case. But I think us as consumers as well, we need to say, look, we're not going to buy the stuff. We're not going to wear the stuff that says Redskins.
You know, you're never going to have a team that's that bad that people aren't going to want to go. You're never going to have a nickname that's going to make people shy away from buying it. It's just not going to happen. If people are interested and they want it and they want to go to a game or buy a jersey, they're going to do it.
I'm not saying don't go, but how about don't buy a Redskins cap or even – I'm not even saying don't buy like the jersey, but anything that says Redskins on it. If it's a bomber jacket or if it's a baseball cap, whatever. If you stop doing that, that'll be enough. You know, I'm not advocating that. I know people love this football team and they love the sport, obviously. And I love watching this team. We all do. Okay. But you can still stop buying the merchandise, and that'll send a big message to Daniel Snyder. And bottom line, like you said, that would get it done.
Thanks for listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Be sure to listen weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
This Sunday, NASCAR's best drivers tangle on the road course at the Glen, with chase hopes hanging in the balance. 43 drivers battle, 16 advance, 5 races to go. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Watkins Glen, Sunday at noon Eastern on ESPN.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
This is more than a nickname for Daniel Snyder, isn't it? Doesn't it go deeper to something that his father always wanted this to continue to be the nickname of this organization?
Yeah, his dad was a writer, freelance writer, and did a lot of study, wrote a lot of papers, and did a lot of work on the Redskin name. So that's why, you know, Dan's always been, you know, Redskins, that it's not a derogatory comment in his mind. And I think as you saw in that interview yesterday, in his mind, that's what it means, and that's what it means to him. You know, but what it means, you know, one of our callers on my show today called in and said that if you saw an Indian standing there, would you say that's a football player?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even know that you call him you wouldn't call him a Redskin either. You might get punched. You know, so what's your take on it, Vinny?
I think this, Chris. I think this. And I said this because I did Outside Lines came to my house and it's airing sometime in September. You know, I think this. I think that Dan will never change unless he's forced to. And I think the only way, and you saw yesterday on the interview where he said that, you know, the league and the other owners are supporting him right now. And I think just like the LA Kings, you know, when sponsors start to pull out, things happen quickly. And if major sponsors were to start to pull out, then other owners aren't going to be so supportive. And I don't think the NFL would be so supportive. So as it continues to grow, this has come up before, you know, and the thing that the Redskins did at that time was nothing. They never responded, just didn't do anything, and it just kind of went away. This time they've responded. They've made it a political battle and, you know, got into it with the media, with Congress, with everything else. I don't think this time it's going away. And as you see, Dan's doing, you know, a ton of media stuff to defend, you know, the Redskins name and himself. So this time it's not going away. If major stuff start to pull out, then I think the NFL acts, and then they will make Dan do something. He will not do anything by himself. Unless forced, he will not change that name.
Why does it seem, Vinny, that every club is kind of opposed to it, but won't stand up and say that they have a major issue with it? Is this you don't want to go against a co-owner in this league?
Well, I don't think, for them, even though I saw Jerry Jones, for them to come out and take a stand really does nothing for them at the present time. It doesn't help them, doesn't hurt them. And you know what? If they just stay neutral, then they don't get involved in it one way or another. And I don't think they want to be involved. They say this is Dan Snyder's issue, not my issue. I don't want to be involved in that.
Have you talked, during your time maybe with the Redskins, have you talked with many Native Americans about this, and what have they told you, if so?
I've never, the whole time I was there, no, I never talked to one Native American Indian about the team name. And Chris, it's kind of interesting with, I never heard all the times at the stadium and all that kind of stuff, it was always like go Skins go. It was never Redskins. It was more just Skins. And I never looked at it as a derogatory thing because, I just looked at it as a football team and nothing, that I'm saying something bad about somebody else.
I think a lot of people never realized it, but you know what? If it affects you personally, and it doesn't affect most of us personally, but you look, Vinny, at almost every other institution or team that has this kind of a nickname, they've changed it. You look at Miami University, you look at Marquette, you look at St. John's, you look at Hawaii. They've all changed, and we're kind of all waiting now on Dan Snyder and Washington to follow suit.
Yeah, and I, like I said, and I'll keep saying it, Dave. He's not going to change it unless the league comes down on him and makes him change it. The league, and I'm talking about the 31 other owners. I don't think he's not changing it. He is not changing it. I mean, it means too much to him, and you saw the passion, from and you even heard his wife say, Tanya said he's the biggest fan in the world.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he's going to unless he's forced. I wish Roger Goodell would step up on this issue.
Now, Roger grew up a Redskin fan too, though, Chris.
Yeah, he won't be forced. I just think, and you're right. I mean, I don't think hardly any of us grew up thinking it was derogatory. But no. It's not derogatory to us, but if it is to Native Americans who are very small in the population and even smaller in mainstream society, then I think that's when you should get rid of it. So hopefully they'll do that.
I agree with you there. It doesn't matter to us, but if it matters to Native American Indians, you got to listen.
I think that's pretty much where we all sit. All right, you don't mind if I actually ask you a question about on the field football, do you?
No, that'd be even
refreshing,
more
right?
Yeah. Let me try that. Vinny Cerrato, of course, former Redskins GM, Director of Pro Personnel, and very close friends with Daniel Snyder, joining us here on ESPN New York 98.7 FM on the Lexus of Route 10 hotline. The Jets, they get started tomorrow night. In your estimation, would you be, and let me go as far as saying shocked if Geno Smith is not the starting quarterback on opening day?
Yeah, I'd be shocked because they're doing everything they can, and they even got Michael Vick convinced of that. But if he doesn't start out well, I think they feel very comfortable, and I mean Rex and I mean Marty, that if he's not doing well in a game or if he has 2 or 3 bad games, I don't think they'll feel bad about making that change. I don't think they'll be gun shy.
Do you think their hesitancy to let Vic get reps with the first unit in practice is really that they don't want him to outperform Geno in the preseason? Because I would imagine if other players see, man, Vic's just better, they're going to want Vic to play. Do you think that's kind of coming into play at all?
You know what? I think Michael Vick knows the system better than Geno because he was with Marty before. So I think he's more comfortable. He's a veteran. He doesn't need to take as many reps to get ready. Geno needs as many as he can. It's a new system to him. He needs more reps. He needs more work. Give Geno the best opportunity. Marty knows what he has in Michael Vick. He knows what he's got. I know what I have in this hand over here. Let me see if Geno's the guy, because Michael Vick's got 1 year left on his contract. For the organization, the best thing and what you got to do, you got to see if Geno is the guy or not the guy. Vic can be the Band-Aid, but if Geno's not the guy, then you got to go find the guy. If Michael Vick is not the guy, Michael Vick would just be a Band-Aid.
If I told you have to win 1 game, do you debate that you'd go with Michael Vick to be your starting quarterback?
Oh, if I had to play it today, yeah, and I have not seen them practice, but just from what I know, yes, I would definitely go with Michael Vick today if I had to win one game.
All right, Vinny, it's always a pleasure. Don't be a stranger. I hope to talk to you real soon. I know we're all thrilled that the NFL is back. Good stuff as always, buddy.
All right, take care, guys.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
This Sunday, NASCAR's best drivers tangle on the road course at the Glen, with Chase hopes hanging in the balance. 43 drivers battle, 16 advance, 5 races to go. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Watkins Glen, Sunday at noon Eastern on ESPN.